Welcome to my first training vlog. So I've decided to start recording a training vlog because I'd like to share my training with others, to show my struggles, to show my success, my progress, where I'm currently at, and my goals and where I'm heading. So I thought this was a great opportunity for me to do that in a vlog. I also want to practice talking to the camera and getting better at this skill, and I think this will be a great way for me to get more comfortable, because training's something I've been doing for years and it's something that I have a lot of knowledge about. So the topic is easy to talk about, and it puts me in front of the camera. So in this first vlog, I want to talk a little bit about handstand push-ups. It's something I've been working on for a while. This time last year, my handstand push-up was a lot better than it is right now. I went through some health issues and took some time off strength training, but I'm glad to say that I'm getting a lot better now. My health's recovering, and for the last sort of 2 to 3 months, I've been slowly building up my strength training and getting back to sort of the level where I was before these health issues arose. Anyway, in the last block of training that I've just completed, I was working on the wall-facing handstand eccentric push-up, and I was using a cluster method. So I was doing one rep, let's say in week 1, I was doing one rep, 12 to 15 seconds eccentric, resting 15 seconds, and then performing a second rep, 12 to 15 seconds, and that's classed as one set. I was doing 6 sets of that. The cluster method has an intra-set rest between the repetitions, which allows the muscles to recover slightly, which means I can get in more volume of work. So something like this, where I'm lowering my whole body weight, as an overhead press, it's a good opportunity to try and add a little bit more volume, or in this case, a little bit more time under tension. So in that first week, 12 to 15 seconds, first 2 weeks, 12, 15 seconds eccentric, I'm accumulating anywhere between 24 to 30 seconds of time under tension in those reps over 6 sets. That's obviously starting to build up a lot more, and with bodyweight training, this is a great way to progress the strength. In week 3 to 4, my aim was to do 15 seconds eccentric, 15 seconds rest, 15 seconds eccentric on all 6 sets, which I achieved. And then week 5 to 6, I progressed that, aiming for 15 to 20 seconds of eccentric on each rep, but this time increasing the rest by 20 seconds between the 2 repetitions. My first 3 sets were both 20-second eccentrics. My last 3 sets, the time started to come down, but all of my reps were above 15 seconds. So I feel confident enough to move on to the next progression in my handstand push-up. So this week I just did some testing, a bit of a back off week to see where I'm at, and the testing was to try and play with the eccentric star handstand push-up, moving more towards the straddle planche as you come down, and I was doing it on an elevated surface just to give myself more room, more range of motion in the bottom of that handstand push-up. So I didn't really set myself a tempo. It was more a matter of testing my strength and my balance. Am I ready for this progression? Do I feel like I'm confident enough to be able to train this in the next block that I'm just about to start to write? And in the first few reps, I had a little bit of doubt. My speed in the eccentric was a little bit quick and I didn't control it that well. But as the sets went on, obviously started to activate more motor units and recruit more muscle fibers, and I started to be able to control that eccentric motion a lot better. Some of the reps were sort of 12, 15 seconds of time under tension, which I'm happy about. So that gives me a good foundation to set up for my next block. So you might be wondering why the star shape in the handstand push-up. By opening the legs into this star shape, it just helps a little bit more with balance. I create a bigger surface area and I've got a little bit more control. So as I'm starting to work on the handstand push-up, having the feet together, I have to be more precise in terms of my balance. Also, having the feet together creates a longer lever. So just like when we're working on a front lever, if I'm in a straddle front lever, it's slightly easier than to hold the full hollow body shape front lever because of the lever length. In the handstand push-up, I'm tilting. You'll notice that the shoulders move forward and the torso angle changes. This lever length is a little bit harder to balance. If I start to go into a straddle, again, I've got the width of the legs, but I also have a slightly shorter lever length, which makes the handstand push-up slightly easier. So this is where I'm going to start in terms of my freestanding handstand push-ups. Why the move to the bent arm straddle planche? Again, I'm trying to just work more time under tension. By having the elevated surface, being able to come down to that position and keep tension in the triceps as I lift the chest up and move the body forward, I have more time under tension, and therefore I'm going to be applying more stress on the triceps and pressing muscles, the chest, to build more sort of strength through that handstand push-up. If we want to start to take this to the impossible push-up, which is like going from the handstand push-up down into a bent arm planche and being to push back up, again, this is also a good progression to work on. It's going to highlight some of the limitations, which I'll talk about in a minute. So there are areas I definitely need to work on to be able to improve this. And right now my bent arm planche is one of those. So what's the plan for the next block? My plan is to combine this with the one-arm chin-up that I'm working on. I won't talk too much about that today, but we're looking at a bent arm strength program, and I'm looking at agonist-antagonist muscle groups. So bent arm pulling and bent arm pushing will be the supersets. I'll probably have A's, B's, and C's, and maybe I'll finish with a D. I'm going to put that program together probably tomorrow to start. What else am I going to include there? So the eccentric star handstand push-up to bent arm straddle planche will be in week 1 to 2, 6 sets, just 1 repetition, aiming to get 10 to 15 seconds of time under tension on every rep. As that progresses over the weeks 3 and 4, I'm going to try to hit 100% 15 seconds or more on every rep, just trying to slow it down as much as I can. And then hopefully week 5 to 6, I'll definitely be aiming for 15 to 20 seconds of time under tension. And hopefully with the accessory work I'll be working on, be able to see a better progression into that bent arm straddle planche. What I see is my current limitations. So just from playing with this yesterday and looking at that control and those repetitions, I definitely need to warm up a little bit better and get more activation through the pressing muscles so that my first couple of sets are more consistent. So that's one thing I didn't do yesterday. My wrist mobility is limited at the moment. I need to work on my wrist mobility, not so much for the handstand press up, but more working into the bent arm planche. It's one of those things when I come down in that handstand press up to try and apply some weight sort of more towards the thumb, and even being able to twist the fingers out just a little bit as I move into that bent arm planche. Having the fingers forward is good for the handstand in terms of balance, but this limits obviously, or is limited by my wrist extension. So what I'm going to try to do is just start to practice turning the hands out, turning the fingers out to 45 degrees, just to see if I can get the shoulders forward a little bit more in that bent arm planche and be able to hold that for a few seconds before I collapse like I have done in the video that you've seen now. I need to continue to build strength in that eccentric, so having more time under tension as the weeks go on, that's going to help me. Eccentrics are a great way to build strength so that then we can perform the concentric. There's some research out there saying that we're sort of between 130 to 150% stronger in the eccentric motion than we are in the concentric motion. So it's a great way to build strength in movements that we're not yet able to do the concentric phase in. So I use this a lot with clients when we're working on chin-ups. If a client can't do a chin-up, we will do some eccentric chin-ups to build the strength, and eventually they'll be able to do the concentric phase. We're applying that same principle to the handstand push-up. My shoulders need to be more open in the straight handstand at the beginning there. So it's funny, I'm working on that handstand, and there are times where my shoulders are nice and open and I've got a lovely straight handstand, and it seems that when we move to the handstand push-up, just that anticipation of the handstand push-up has my shoulders closed. It's the first movement that we go through. We sort of lean the shoulders forward before we bend the elbows. But I should start with the shoulders open like a normal handstand, then start to lean the shoulders forward and taking them down. So I'd just like to have a cleaner repetition there. I'd like to start with a straighter handstand. In one of the videos I've got from yesterday, the handstand was quite straight at the start, but then other videos, I didn't open the shoulder enough. So just being consistent with that and tidying up the repetitions, make it look pretty. Consistency in my kick up, especially on the box, to have the kick up multiple times really starts to fatigue the shoulders, and obviously that limits your ability to better control that eccentric. So I've just got to get some more consistency in that kick up. So definitely kick ups in the warm up, just to get that preparation going. Try to fire up the muscles, try and think about the power that's needed on the box, just preparing me for the actual working sets. I have a slight twist in my handstand, which I'd like to fix. I've got an awareness of it, so just got to be conscious of that twist in my hips and try to straighten that out. It is getting better, and it's definitely better if I get the shoulders open. What's going to be my accessory work in this new block? Wrist mobility is required, like I said, so I'm going to spend more time in the warm-up focusing on some wrist mobility. I might do some PNF stuff in there to try and just really open up the wrists a little bit more. I might even do some barbell wrist curls at the start just to try and activate some of those wrist extensors as well. What else am I going to look at? I'm also going to look at some weighted push-ups. So there are different ways to do weighted push-ups. At the moment I'm living on the road in the caravan, so I'm a bit limited with the equipment, but what I'm going to try to do is a low set of P-bars and putting a weight plate on my back and just starting to work some weighted push-ups. We'll keep the reps rather low. I'm not going for volume here. I'm trying to build more strength. I'll probably start with sort of a functional strength range, maybe 6 to 8 reps, and then over the weeks those repetitions will go down and try to bring the weight back up. The push-up's going to help me with the bent arm planche, building more strength there. But believe it or not, I also think the push-up is a really great exercise to help improve the handstand push-up. I've been working pipe push-ups and inverted press in the previous weeks coming up to this, but I also feel that the weighted push-up is going to help build the tricep strength there, and a little bit of chest strength, which will be good for the handstand push-up and obviously the bent arm planche. Always working the shoulder rotator cuffs. So in this bent arm session, I'll definitely be putting in some rotator cuff work, trying to build some strength there. It's very important. A lot of times in the handstand push-up, you see a lot of people with the elbows flaring out to the side. As this elbow lifts up, we generally take the shoulder into more internal rotation, and this is a very dangerous position for the shoulder, especially when it's loaded. If you're going to dislocate a shoulder, it's going to come with the arm coming out of the socket, the humerus coming out of the front of the socket. You've got your pec and you've got your bicep, and obviously you've got your delts and everything here, but that's just muscular. That's holding that bone into position in the shoulder socket. On the back, we have a nice big strong shoulder blade that's solid bone, and we can push the humerus into the back of the socket, and it's not going to come out the back of the socket because of that support. So the external rotation, being able to keep the elbows in closer and not let them flare out, is external shoulder rotation, okay? So we want to try to keep building the strength in the external rotator cuffs to be able to keep this elbows in position, and it makes us stronger through our pressing. More stability, a better foundation in the shoulder, allowing the primary movers like the triceps and the pecs to do the job. If the stabilizers aren't strong, then the elbow is going to kick out and we're not going to function as well in terms of that pressing. I'm always applying shoulder external rotation work. This comes from Charles Poliquin. A lot of Charles Poliquin coaches will always include external rotation work in every block, always training it. It's a very big weakness for a lot of people, and it should be a lot stronger. So for myself, it's still a weakness for me. When I look at the structural balance numbers that Charles publishes, my external rotator cuffs are not where they should be. So continuing to work on those, continuing to build the strength in the rotator cuffs is what I'm after in the next block. So I will share my training vlogs hopefully on a weekly basis. This is just an introduction. It's just an idea that I had. This is my current handstand press up. I'll start to talk about my mobility, my one arm chin, everything else that I'm sort of working on, my lower body days, and I hope you tune in, hope you like it. Please comment, please ask questions. Please, if you've got some useful feedback or comments, feel free to add them to the comments below. Anyway, until next time, see you then.